it's the proudest day, the proudest time, and the seat of a rally car. Because that day, and that hour, and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, episode 40, would you believe? Connor, you're very welcome once again.
Thanks, Kevin. Delighted to be here as always.
Yeah, so before we start, just once again, can you please like, share, comment, rate, subscribe? All those things make a huge difference, you know. And, everything that's been going on these last few weeks has been gratefully appreciated. The numbers and, your comments and your likes and all that's been much appreciated. So just keep it up. On this show, we catch up with Aaron Johnston and hear about his World Championship travels. We also catch up with Mick Morrissey, one of the true characters of the sport. Just, kind of how he got on this year, really, I suppose. And then finally, then it was a pleasure then for myself then to catch up with Melvyn and Meirion Evans, two, real gentlemen of the rallying world, But, without further ado, I suppose we'll take a wee quick look at the comings and goings in the WRC this past week, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we had our special last week with the announcement that Craig had jumped ship from M-Sport to go back to Hyundai. And then, as we got a bit of clarity on the lineup for Hyundai, we see that Lappi has gone for a full-time seat there with them as well. So he's moved from Toyota. So interesting times and interesting there. Hyundai is getting a bit of inside knowledge because, there's Hyundai's two main opposition teams there that they're getting the driver from each. So there'll be a bit of knowledge transfer there, definitely, with regard to getting that Hyundai tweaked and set up compared to its competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes there's part of my head kind of questioning what's Lappi's reasoning behind, jumping from Toyota to Hyundai. But I suppose, like, at best, he had a part drive there, so he's going for a full drive. And, I do think Lappi has a talent, there's no doubt about it. If the carriage fell in his favour, he's a potential world champion, So, will he fit in? Will he have that, almost kind of strong enough to stand up to Neville, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Like Tanak, we know how strong he is, and it just, the two of them seem to grate almost together. You would like Hyundai to fit better.
Yes, you would hope so. Like, certainly we've seen a different Lappi, maybe a more relaxed Lappi in the last year and a bit. When he did get the drives out with Toyota, he was very strong, fantastic speed, some great positions. Events didn't always go his way, but that's, a lack of seat time. With the Hyundai, what we'll have to wait and see is, can he drive the car as well? One that's set up towards Thierry Neuville, as we discussed previously, that the car really is built around Thierry. So if Lappi can get in and handle that perfectly, then I think this is a fantastic opportunity. Again, that full-time drive, rather than sharing a car with Ogier. And if you listen to the backstories interview that WRC did with Lappi, Ogier has always had some impact on his career and his driving, and there's always been that overlap. So maybe this was his chance to escape and be free of Ogier.
Yeah, that is for sure. And then Craig Breen and James Fullerton, then they'll be sharing the car with Danny Sordo. Like, it has to be, this is Craig's chance. Clean sheet of paper once again, go for it, forget about, the 2022, it didn't work, move on. Still, we're waiting on the M-Sport announcement yet. Lots of interesting rumours, there's no point in us rehashing all that. So, we'll just have to wait and see, really.
Yeah, I think look, there's a huge question mark over M-Sport. To be honest, unless M-Sport can really bring in some big sponsorship, and they haven't been able to really do that so far in the last couple of years, I don't think they're going to be announcing, a mega star lineup. It's probably looking unlikely at this stage. But you never know. Malcolm might pull something out of a hat. And then with regard to Craig, so Danny seems to be doing the majority of the events for next year. From what we can gather, it's looking like it's 8 rounds. So, Craig will be in the car, but maybe not just as often. So hopefully that takes the pressure off him and allows him to have a reset.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, if he gets a good bit of testing, and not having that pressure of being a lead driver as well, too, which I think is a crucial thing as well, too. And then, closer to home as well, Aaron Johnston has now stepped up to the main Toyota team. Great to see.
Yeah, no, fantastic news. Like, really, it's been a pleasure to follow Aaron and Taka's year. They had a really successful year in the WRC. They've exceeded the targets that would have been set for them. They finished the championship 5th overall, which is phenomenal. It's fantastic. And, again, from the sports perspective, great to have young blood, up there challenging. And then also the fact that it's a Japanese, driver is there and so highly placed in the championship. At the end of the day, there's always been a strong connection with Toyota Japanese manufacturers in the championship. And it's great. And if that maybe might help encourage Subaru or Honda or somebody else to dip their toe in the water again, that would be phenomenal.
It really would. It really would. And you caught up with Aaron then as well.
I did. Aaron literally had landed back in Ireland again from his trip to Japan. It's been out there, I think, 3 and a bit weeks. And I just literally had the chance to sit down and have a chat with him and appreciate his time. And started out with asking him, how did 2022 go for him?
Yeah, all good, Connor. Thanks for having me on again. The year, I think, exceeded all of our expectations, to be honest. To finish P5 in the championship behind what you can essentially call the big four of Calais and Elfin and then Thierry and Oit, and to be, runner up to them guys, I think definitely is more than we had expected at the beginning of the year. We had some targets, of course. As competitors, we always want to do the best job that we can, but after 13 rallies all over the world to finish in 5th, I think it's something we can be very, very proud of, and it's something that we can definitely build on then moving forward into next year.
And, I suppose effectively you were Toyota Rallies, Toyota WRC, the B team, the second team. So what, did that mean the pressure wasn't on you, or was the pressure just the same? And, kind of how was that?
Well, I think the B team is maybe something that we don't really want to talk about. We can call it the next gen team, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, and to move up now next year to the A team, if you want to call it this, is another step on the ladder. But this year we just did our own thing. Events that we were feeling comfortable on, like Sweden and Portugal, Kenya, places like this, the times were right up there at the business end, and on events maybe that we weren't so confident on, like Croatia or Sardinia or places like this, we accepted that and took it as it came and built the experience for the years to come. But I think pressure-wise, if we can do the same job that we did this year and just take baby steps again forward, then I think as a third car, it's exactly what the team require and what they need for someone to be in and around that 4th and 5th place. And if something goes wrong in front, that you're there to collect the points. And that's exactly what we did this year on all events. And of course, there were events that we were able to push more, and this is what the plan was from the beginning of the year. So I don't think for us things will really change. We will just do the same job that we did, and hopefully we can achieve the results and score the points for the manufacturers.
And obviously, I don't mean anything derogatory by the A or the B teams, but your step up or your promotion as such to the main WRC team now, was that immediately on the cards, or is that in recognition basically of the strength of your performance this year?
Yeah, don't worry. I understand what you mean about the A team and the B team. It's no problem. I think, to be honest, we had certain targets obviously from the team this year, and quite early on we had ticked many of them off. So then from their side, I guess they were thinking about the next step for us already, maybe in the middle of the year, and it was something that we were made aware of, a few rallies ago, but of course nothing was confirmed, and it was only after Japan really that we got the information about moving up. But yeah, I think we can just continue like we have done, and thanks to the guys for really giving us the opportunity to step up and work with Callie and Elfin on a full-time basis, and of course Seb in the third car.
And just I'm just having a quick check on the WRC.com. Looking at you, a fairly solid year, but just a little bit of a wobble there towards the end. New Zealand and Spain probably the weaker performances, and at the end of the season, I suppose, how did that feel, like having had such a strong run up to that point? Was there a wee knock in confidence, or was it just, look, this is a blip, it's no problem, we'll recalibrate and move on in Japan?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, New Zealand was round 11, so we had already done 10 rallies without a mistake, and no problem scoring points on every single one of them events, and good points in positions, in the top 5. So it's part of rallying. That's rallying, as they say. These things are going to happen, and I think the fact that we did 10 rallies without making any sort of errors proves that the progress that we have made, not only with Taka but as a crew. Spain, I think, on the other hand, was just one of them things. We got a puncture and dropped a minute, and after that, on a rally that everybody knows so well and that the margins are so fine, to lose a minute till a puncture, it's really impossible to make that time back. But the feeling in Spain was really good with the car, and obviously going to Japan, which was also a tarmac rally, the confidence was actually pretty high after Spain, albeit the result maybe wasn't as strong as we would have liked, all because of the puncture. But the confidence on all surfaces, I think, in the car now with ourselves and the other guys is really good, and we feel confident every time we step into it, and the engineers are doing a really good job to give us a car that we feel comfortable in and that we can push and set the times that we are.
And Rally Japan, obviously first time for yourself to compete there, and unfortunately maybe some of the negative things around the rally made the headlines, but how was the event how did you personally find the event? How did it compare, even with what's the tarmac like there? Is there much of a difference to some of the other rounds that you would do, or what was the preparation like for the event?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think, it was the first time that the rally has ran in 12 years, and it was in a completely different area and on obviously a different surface, with the last one being gravel and this one being tarmac. And I think probably a lot of the people that were involved in organising the rally, in the 2000s weren't involved in organising this one. So essentially it was a new rally, and like everything, everybody has to learn. And yeah, okay, there was a few things that definitely can be improved for next year, but overall I feel the rally was a success, and there was a hell of a lot of people out on the stages and even on the road sections, and there was no issues from that side. So I think, from what I was expecting leaving home, was maybe a rally that was more like Catalonia in Spain, fast flowing, more open, with a white line down the middle of it. And I guess the Fast and Furious franchise didn't help with this impression either. But when we got there and on the recce, I was really, really surprised on how tight and technical the roads were. And not even that, these roads that we were rallying on, maybe for the general public, they were not even using, because there was so much pollution and moss and things already there before the recce. So hopefully now that the rally has been a success, and it is on the calendar for next year that they can, look about roads that maybe are not as tight and technical, and they can open it up like this. Of course, as competitors, these tight and technical roads we enjoy, but it's better if there is maybe a little bit of a mixture, that not everything is so narrow and so technical. But okay, it was a good event. It was a good event, and it was one that we enjoyed. But yeah, of course, everybody can improve with the experience, and I think that the organisers in Japan will definitely be able to learn from the events of last week and make the event bigger and better and stronger for next season.
And you mentioned earlier that your role this year was basically to be there in around the midpoint and be able to pick up positions and points if the opportunity arose, and that's certainly what happened in Japan. And Taka seemed such a gent, and if not slightly embarrassed to find out that Evans, had lost his position, and Taka was now, and yourself were now in third place overall. Like, was that I suppose a shock to the two of you, and how did that feel? Certainly going to Japan, and Taka was certainly center of attention as the Japanese driver amongst the Japanese team.
From my side, anyway, I would have been more than happy finishing in fourth and Elfin to win the rally, because, of course, we were in Toyota City and it was Toyota's home event, and there was a lot of people there that don't have the luxury from Japan of traveling to events overseas. So to bring that win home for Toyota would have been, even more special than us finishing on the podium in third. But on the same hand, to get a Japanese driver on the podium on Rally Japan was also a big thing for not only the sport and Toyota, but for everyone involved. And from my side, it was an incredible experience. I knew that Taka was a big thing in Japan, but to see the amount of support and fans that he had there was incredible. To answer the other side of the question, I didn't actually realise that Elvin had a puncture until after we moved away from the stop line, because Taka removes the intercom to speak to the end of stage reporters, and it was something that I wasn't aware of at this point. But this is what our job is to to be in and around these positions that we can capitalise on, dramas in front, and that's exactly what we did. And it was great to bring the car home in third place and top Toyota, and have at least one on the podium. And
what you mentioned earlier as well, punctures coming into effect in Spain, and Sebastian Ogier raised the issue around his view on the Pirelli tires and the quality of the tires. How has the series of punctures impacted? Do you feel it made a difference to your own championship or the team's championship?
From our side, I think we haven't had so many. We had one in Croatia, we had one in Spain, and apart from this, sitting here now, I don't really recall any others that massively affected the results. But we're competing in the most extreme form of motorsport in the world, and driving on surfaces that you would never experience on normal day-to-day driving. And Pirelli are new to the championship, and they're still working this last few years to build their experience and their profile on the World Championship again from taking back over. So I think that the job that they have done so far has been really good. And like anything in life, it's just the more experience you get, the better job you can do. And I'm sure they're working to constantly improve in the future.
And Aaron, obviously Japanese event, home rally for Toyota, home rally for Taka, and you were there for, I think, the guts of 3 weeks, or if not slightly longer. I'm sure it wasn't a holiday. I would say you had plenty of PR promotional work to do for Toyota.
Yes, well, I left home here and went to Finland first, and then went from there to Japan. And we went with JAL, Japan Airlines, from Finland to Tokyo direct. And already when we arrived in the airport, we had some PR to do with them, obviously with them being a sponsor for the team. So from we arrived really until almost a week after the event, it was go, go, go with either PR or obviously then the preparation and during the event. So it was busy, and we didn't really have so much downtime, but from what I did see of Japan, I definitely am looking forward to going back as a tourist, and not just when the rally's on, to spend some time there and experience everything that it has to offer.
I can only imagine there was, a bit of buzz and excitement amongst the Toyota management. The fact that, the team had come home and had brought with it the manufacturers and the drivers' championship.
Yeah, it was a massive thing. And of course, Toyota want one of their drivers and co-drivers to win the drivers and co-drivers titles. But for them, the most important thing is the manufacturers, and to already seal that in Spain made the job an awful lot easier going into Japan, where we were all told that we can push for the rally victory. So it took some of the pressure off, and it meant that everyone was a little bit more relaxed and could enjoy the rally for what it was, their home event, instead of having the additional pressure of achieving a result. So it was special, and we already had some activities before the rally began because we had already clinched the manufacturer's title, and it was nice to do this already before the rally started.
And as I mentioned earlier, you're stepping up into the main team now for the 23 season, and you're sharing the car with Sebastian Ogier. From a development point of view of the car, and I know you can't give much away, but what's the expectation around upgrades and improvements? Is there stuff coming down the line that you're aware of?
The guys are always working and trying to find some small updates and upgrades that obviously lead to a reduction in the time that it takes us to do the stages. But as for next year, I'm not really aware of anything coming. It's a constant thing. Everybody is trying to find something, and the biggest upgrade we made this season was, I think, before Estonia. We brought the new rear aero, and at the minute there is no testing planned before Christmas. So the first one will be the pre-event Monty test now, with the new regulations on the limited testing that we're allowed. So I'm sure there will be something, but from my side, I'm not sure what.
And speaking of testing, and more just a curiosity point of view for myself, what's your involvement in testing? Is it there just from a safety point of view, reading notes, or do you get to have an input and a say with the engineers about what you feel, is good or not good on the car?
Well, from a co-driver's perspective, let's say now that we're a year into the Rally 1, there is maybe not so much that we will have a say on, because it's more just the feeling from the driver and the comfort levels. But if you rewind to this time last year, when everything was new and you had obviously the redesigned cockpits with the exhaust tunnel and the limited space that we had compared to previous generations of car, the input from the co-drivers was always valued, because it was something that maybe the designers had thought about, but in real world experience, it's not something that they have ever done before. So at this point, it was a massive thing for not only myself, but all of the rest of the guys to get their opinion down. And I have to say, in our team anyway, that everything was done to make us as comfortable in the car as they possibly could. But from now moving into next year, and all of this has been finalized, I think it's just more personally down to the driver and the setup. But we're still there. It's good practice until that point. Now I'll not have read notes in 6 weeks before the Monty test, so just to get back into the swing of things before going up the Torini on Thursday night.
And moving away from Toyota, silly season seems to have had a longer run than normal this year. What's your thoughts on the seat hopping and resignations and various things that are going on around you and the other teams?
Yeah, look, it's called the silly season for a reason. It gives you guys something to talk about and make plenty of media noise. So yeah, there's always a few surprises every year, and this year has been no different. But I think now it has a lot of it has been, you know, published apart from obviously Ford. So let's see what they come with. But yeah, there's always something to talk about.
So, Aaron, listen, again, appreciate your time. It's, you know, fantastic for you to come and give us an update of how things went for the year. Delighted, you know, with your 5th overall. It's been, you know, from our side, it's been a pleasure to watch your journey with Takamota, and we're really looking forward to next year and what 23 brings.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. It's always a pleasure to come on and be involved with the Krunching Gears podcast. And I have to say thanks for that. And also thanks to all my personal sponsors this year, with C&M Motorsport, McKelvey Construction, PH Shot Blasting, and ECD NY. Without these guys, it would have been an awful lot more difficult for me to achieve my dreams and to keep pushing at this level. So thanks to them for coming on board this year, and I hope that I can continue to represent them into next season.
Great to hear there from Aaron. You know, what can we say? Brilliant. Another one of those characters that, you know, has been around the sport for a long time is Mick Morrissey, who wasn't long back from Japan either. You know, I caught up with Mick at the start of this week and asked him, you know, he's been involved in rallying now for over 40 years. How did he first get involved?
Kevin, you can add 10 more years onto that 40 or more. Yeah, would you believe I started rallying in 1971? The first Ravens Rock we had, knew absolutely nothing about rallying. Motorbikes, bike racing was my first love, actually. And there, but for the grace of God, I nearly bought a bike. A chap I was friendly with, Tony Hanrahan. Tony started racing, and I went for a spin. He's on his bike one night, just around the roads here, and went looking to buy a bike. Didn't buy one, thanks be to God. And next thing, the Ravens Rock was taking place. We didn't know anything about rallying, but I had an Austin 1300 GT with ordinary seat belts and Aaron Radian remold on it, and we had to go to the Ravens Rock 6 days at night time, totally blind, and to a different timing system back then as well. But sure, since then we moved along a little bit piece by piece, and we ended up here. Sure. Hey, we great times rallying. Made fantastic friends all along the way. Now, really, really great guys all together. Yeah, and yeah, sure, it was grand. So there you are.
Yeah, and like rallying has allowed you to travel the world.
Yeah, sure. The amount of traveling we've been doing, I suppose, really and truly, like any guys that are doing a few rallies in Ireland. From that point of view, is fantastic because we get to see stuff that even tourists don't see. You know, you're off the beaten track, and there's fantastic places in Ireland. Even your own county, Kevin. Mm-hmm. I love your own county, and like, you know, all those beautiful stages you have up there, and you know, it's really good. And of course, then like doing foreign rallies and that, like, you know, being all over the place, really, you know, like a lot of rallies in the Middle East and places like Mexico and the Rockies in Canada, and, you know, and the WRC rallies that we're doing as well. So we've seen a lot of places, but generally off the beaten track, lots of places that tourists don't go to see. And from that point of view, like, it is really nice.
Yeah, and like this year here, you come second overall in the WRC2 Masters, like an official FIA title. Like, yeah. You know, even after 50 years, that's going to give you immense satisfaction.
Yeah, well, we didn't know anything about the Masters until we went to Sweden this year. Tommy Buckley, that runs our team, Tommy registered Aaron and I for the Masters, and he never even told us. So anyway, after Sweden, anyway, Tommy said to me, "Do you realise?" He said that you're leading the Masters Cup, the co-driver section. So I said, "What's that, Tommy?" so anyway, sure, he told us then, but on points I was then, but sure, this French guy, I'm actually friendly with him. They did more rallies than us, and they were just a shade quicker than us, and. But then you had other lads that came out like Freddie Likes, like Fast Freddie. Freddie was registered as well, but he didn't do all the rallies. But of course he beat us as well, so he shoved us back. Mm-hmm. But anyway, sure. Hey, it was a bit of crack.
Yes, for sure. That's for sure. And like Japan this year as well too. Like it's great to see Japan back in the WRC calendar. And like what was it like is that your first time in Japan rallying or had you been there before?
Yeah, first time ever in Japan. Yeah, first time ever. But I'll be honest with you now, I have a hell of a lot of praise for that rally. I know that they probably got knocked with in different things, but the stage setup that they have was probably the best I've ever seen. You know, you arrive along at the start of the stage, it was so well defined. It was way better defined than say like say the top rallies. Say like the Monte Carlo rally, for example. Stage setup on Monte Carlo when we go and do the recce it wouldn't be great now. Yeah, it's okay, you know, but it was great in Japan, and what we're able to do as well, what I thought was very good, like here, like you had sawdust fire on stage 2, and so we were more or less on the point of starting the stage when they introduced the alternative road book, but they did it very, very quickly. I thought Mary Fitzgerald was there because here in Ireland, you can if you have a problem on stage, they can make a decision there very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. But
I've been at World Championship rallies before when you might have a total blockage on the stage, all the services gone in. We could be hanging around for 3/4 of an hour, and we have. And I won't name the rallies, but before they introduce the alternative road book. And I've often said it to, say start timekeeper, we could be there for half an hour or more. And I said to him, why not introduce the alternative road book? And he'd say, well, we're just waiting on word. And that's it. But I suppose what they're probably hoping is that they're hoping maybe not to lose the stage and just hanging on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But really and truly, they should be able to make a quick decision. The other thing, there were 2 little things happened in Japan though as well, which I suppose the FIA will have a look at it. With sawdust fire and that, I believe it took almost an hour before the services got to him.
Okay.
Now he was probably in he was in a long ways. He was probably in around 19-20 kilometers. But very tight, twisty stages, but still like an hour. It's not on really.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another occasion as well when a spectator car got in on a stage, and I saw the steward's report, and there was a junction that was open to the public, and was open at the other end, and the tape was actually still tied onto a fence post. The tape that should have been closing off the stage. The tape wasn't across the stage, and there was no marshal there, but yet all the cars that went through beforehand, nobody saw it. So, but the thing is, you have a lot of hangers on that, like drive through stages and that, and but just didn't see it. So I think it's a fantastic rally, and I hope that they'll run it again next year.
Yeah,
I hope
it seemed to be very well received, and like. They were saying that the crowds maybe they weren't massive on the stages, but at arrival controls and service areas and things like that, the crowds were there in force.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Toyota Stadium was the service area, and the crowds were unbelievable. I actually did see where they were selling souvenirs and rally stuff and all that, and there was a massive queue there, and I believe that the queue was an hour long. 1 hour, but the other thing about the crowds as well is that I don't see people on stages at all, but I would be aware of them because I'm just totally focused on what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I even said to Eamon afterwards, is the big crowds on the stages? So no, there was very small crowds on the stages, mm-hmm. But where the crowds were, there was hundreds of thousands of people on the road sections. Kevin, you didn't need a road book. You could arrive down to a junction, and if you didn't know which way to go, just have a look, see where the crowd was.
Oh, the crowd.
And it looks like Toyota went around a couple of weeks in advance, and they give out Toyota flags and Japanese flags to everybody on the route, and they probably dropped them into box them into the village on the route as well. But Sure, we saw people that said they were 120 years of age and they out there waving with their flags and everything.
Brilliant.
It was fantastic to see, really.
Yeah.
But we got a really warm welcome there. Very friendly people. Very friendly. So yeah, we hope to get back there again.
Excellent, excellent. And you mentioned Eamon there. Eamon seems such a cool customer there. Whenever they interview him, what's he like in and out of the car? Is he as cool in the car and as cool out of the car?
Yeah, no, no. As regards the rallying, it's a sport for us, but it's serious sport. Like we're very committed with what we do, but at the end of the day, there's no pressure on us. The P1 drivers are certainly not getting the same enjoyment from rallying as what we are, because it's a business for them under huge pressure. But we're running in our own little group, and we'd be hanging around with maybe about 5 cars maybe in front of us, and we'd be chatting with them, and we'd be comparing times, and we'd be having a go at them. They'd be having a go at us. But like, there's no pressure on us. But as regards Eamon, like very, very competitive, a very good driver. We're on a very quick pace, but we're on a safe pace. If we stuck our neck out, we could be near enough to Timo Sunnen's pace. But hey, Kevin, I don't want to be there.
No.
Not be there. But outside of the car and at night time, the whole team have dinner together, and Eamon holds court. And I'll be honest with you now, it is very enjoyable. The crack is mighty, and the slagging that goes on, you wouldn't believe it. And I often get the slagging, but I can take it as well as I give it, Kevin.
I can imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you've been involved now in doing WRC events for God knows how many years now at this stage. And I would say, when you started out, you were one of the very few Irish accents in the service area and on the stages. It's great now to see so many other Irish involved in the sport now at the top level.
Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, sure. When I started off first doing WRC events, first one I did was the Thousand Lakes, I think, in 98. And we didn't know anybody there even. But I tell you what was lovely now was this year to see the young lads, the young Irish guys out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. And like we need youth in our sport, and tell you what we need as well as regards our organisers. We need new blood running the clubs as well. Sure, things get very stale here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's great, and the academy thing and is brilliant, and fair play to John Kine, and that it's just fantastic to see what they have done.
Yeah, like when you look at it, you see James Fullerton into a work seat with Craig, and then you have say Josh McErlane, Walt Crichton, and then never mind all the co-drivers that's coming through the system now as well. It's a fantastic ladder for young guys starting out now.
Absolutely, Kevin. It is, yeah. And it's been nice to see some of those guys advance even further. And sure, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. But it is nice to see young lads out there and sort of getting that kind of experience.
Yeah, and we can't forget the girls as well. There's likes of Grace O'Brien and then
right,
Aoife Raftery.
Absolutely.
That's the great thing about rallying. Everybody has a chance at doing this. There's no discrimination.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. We have a young lad down here now, young Jack Brennan, and I think we will see a lot of him now. We'll see more of him in the future. And his dad, Peter, he started him off the right way. A young lad starting off, just to start off small and just to take advice and that. And they're not going to win a rally first time out. So the whole thing about rallying really is the experience. Is probably the most important element of the whole sport. The experiences, yeah. And even lads starting off, I would always say to young lads starting off, you was killing Duffy's notes for starters. You know, like they're consistent and they can point a lad down the right road. But yeah, I often do, not in recent times now, but I've had given it over the years, given the younger lads, giving them as much guidance to what I could, and taking lads out on stages and showing them how notes work and all of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and to finish up, like if you were, you talked about, you were starting out now. This is what you would do. Like if you could condense that down and give them that wee bit of advice, it would be get out there and do as many events as possible.
yeah, that's exactly it, Kevin. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
And now my last question is: there'll be a gala dinner for all the WRC champions of 2022. Will Mick Morrissey be up there in his tuxedo getting his prize for second overall?
No, I think there's only one. There's only one prize only, but yeah, sure. Hey, it's nice to be here, Kevin.
It is.
It's nice to be here, and you know what's nice as well. It's nice to be able to look back and look at events that we've done, and more important, look at all the wonderful friends that we made over the years, and I think it's fantastic. Unfortunately, some are gone, but yeah, we met great people.
So I think we should all raise a glass to Mick Morrissey there, finishing second in the WRC 2 Masters. He thinks he'll not be invited to the gala dinner, but you never know.
You never know. A great achievement, and delighted to see him. What do you call it? Hopefully pick up the silverware there.
That's for sure. That is for sure. Two other legends of the sport, in my opinion, anyway, is Melvyn Evans and Marianne Evans, who I had the pleasure of talking to earlier in the week as well. Melvin's just one of those guys whose business, the prepping of the cars, is second to none. And I asked, started off by asking Melvin, was his success behind the wheel, how the preparation business come about? So over to the guys.
Basically, yes, yeah. Obviously started stage rallying back years ago, really, and started getting good results, and I was quite lucky, that I started to win events. And always in the trade I'm in, mechanical repairs and garage we ran, and we were always done a little bit of motorsport side. But that seemed to just take over then, with taking new customers in. And I was fairly good at doing car setup, getting them doing damper work and that kind of stuff. So it just sort of just snowballed from there, really, yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at the list of cars that you've owned, as well as never mind worked on, you've had your Escort Cosworths, Escort WRCs, then almost the full range of World Rally Car Subarus, and then more latter years into the R5s. Is there a particular favourite stand out for you?
To be honest, I think like majority of people like me started off in rear-wheel drive, and the Escorts were good cars, no doubt about it. And then we were winning basically everything in two-wheel drive with the Escorts over here, and then I decided to go for a BMW M3. It was a proper pro drive X-Works car, and that's one car I wished I could have kept, to be honest. But the value they make it today. But I had decided to allow me to move on, obviously, Yeah. But that was quite a phenomenal car, to be honest. The M3, we ran it for 2 years, and mechanically didn't have a problem with it, and it was just such a buzz. I remember doing Wexford back when that we made it. 98, and I think we were up third, maybe a fourth or something like that. And the crowd was just, it was just raring you on all the time. They were so BMW had a special place, but obviously moved on then into Group A Subaru and Escort Codgies first, and then the Group A Subaru, and then I think I had all the Subarus all the way up through the year, starting from the Group A into a 98 to 99 and the P2000 and S7, S8, and it just went on S11, S12 and, and 12Bs and so on. So, and the Subarus were very successful, which probably put me on the map, really. We worked quite closely with ProDrive in the early days, and I had some good mates in ProDrive. Richard Brown was a very good friend of mine. He was an engineer, and, we just worked all together, did a lot of our own development, if you like, then especially on the 12B. And as you know, it turned out to be quite a famous car, really.
Yeah, and you had it from. I was looking back on the records there from about what 2009, I think, roughly right up through to 2018.
The B arrived in middle of 2009.
Yeah. And I think I bought the car, and it's a car I remember seeing the car new with in West Cork with Stephen Murphy, and I just thought, oh no, that's one car I really like to get. And would have thought, like maybe a year after or whatever, that I actually bought it. And I bought the car, obviously, then off Derek McGarity. As you know, Derek was selling probably the majority of the Subarus in those days. And we spoke about it on the phone one day. And he said he'd do a deal with me. And I thought, right. And I took an OSHA one day. I just jumped in the van with a trailer and went over, And when I turned up, I remember speaking to Paul, who worked with him, and he said, oh, what are you doing, Melvin? And I said, I've come to pick the 12B up. I said, I don't think Derek's selling it. I said, well, we've done a deal more or less on the phone, and that's the way it went. And Derek came back, and I think Derek was still in two minds about selling it. But I bought the car home and started using it. And the plan was when I won the championship then in 2010, the plan was I'll do the national championship, because in those days the national championship was good for me as working, because you didn't have to take too much time off work. I used to fly over maybe on a Friday night, recce Saturday, rally Sunday, and if we couldn't fly home on the Sunday night, I'd fly home early Monday, and I'd be back at work Monday. So for somebody who didn't have a lot of time to go rallying, it fitted in quite well,
Yeah.
And kind of what the first rally was, Meirion, you probably remember, when we
national,
Burr, we went on. There's good competition, and I think Derek and all those boys there, and we won the first one. So that was a bit of a shock, to be honest, and we just built on that. We won 2 or 3 events, I think, just on the bounce.
Won the first 2, then
yeah,
you had a bad 3 and 4, and you were going to jack it in.
I was going to jack it in before Monaghan, and I said that's it. We'll do a couple of the ones later here. And we also got Kevin Barrett, who ran the championship then. Kevin Barrett rang me up and said, "You coming to Monaghan, Melvin?" And I said, "No. I'm going to give it a miss. We'll come and do something." And he said, "No, you've got to come to Monaghan." Anyway, cutting a long story short, we ended up in Monaghan, and we went from there and kept on going, and obviously won the championship with 1 round remaining.
Yeah. And that was the first driver from outside Ireland to win the title as well. That was a huge thing as well. Yeah, it still is.
It still is, and hopefully nobody will. But but no, I think the national championship was very good then, and I think at that time, I think the international championship was expensive for a lot of people to do and couldn't afford the time. I think the international's now gone the other way. The international's quite good now again. But in those days, the national just suited everybody, and for me to go and win it the first year was a bit of a shock, really, because we were obviously up against some good competition. And I'll never forget, we won the Sligo Rally. And Eugene Donnelly was stood at the end to say a speech in the prize giving. And he said it was good to see somebody like me coming over, not doing illegal wrecking, because there's a lot of that happening, I think, in Ireland in that sort of time. And they were trying to fade it out. And they said, look, like people like me then was flying over on Friday, just doing 3 runs over the stages, and we could still win the rally.
Yeah.
So I think it put a bit of a, that aspect on it as well. So people, thinking, well, you don't really need to do more than three runs. If you do your job right on them 3, it's okay, So, but no, it was a great year, really. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Marianne, from your point of view, you were growing up, there was always rally cars about. Was it always going to be rallying, and was that what you were interested in growing up, or were you might?
I think I played a lot of football as a kid and stuff, but I think at the end of it, I always wanted to get in a car and have a go at it, But I don't know. I know neither of us really have ever had much interest in circuit racing, so I never went karting or anything like that. Sort of kind of the only sport we know in this part of the world is rallying, really. West Wales is obviously a lot of guys start road rallying and things like that. So yeah, I kind of only a car really would work for me, So I think when I turned 14, I got a Micra and did the Junior 1000 for a bit. So it was hard for me to avoid, though. We'll say that.
Yeah, and the Junior 1000 it is a great concept. It's allowing young guys to be behind the wheel, and girls as well, from an early age. Even if they never go rallying, they're getting car control. All those things and I think it's a fantastic. Can you see yourself Gundaf Evans, Josh McLean, John Armstrong, and I mean, I'm not sure whether John come up through it, but Wal Crichton, another one. You know,
yeah, a lot of the young drivers now, kind of my age or kind of 2-3 years younger than me. You'd say probably 90% of them have started there. You know, the Junior 1000. Great concept, you know.
It was quite interesting for me to watch, really, myself, because, you know, I was going there with Meirion, and you could see how a lot of people were coming in, hadn't driven cars before, and going into cars, and how bad they were to begin with, you know. And I helped a lot, you know, giving a bit of tuition, giving them, you know, just a bit of help and a bit of leg up and keep going, you'll work at it. And it was nice to see the progress in the drivers, and, you know, I think it was a good concept as well to get the youngsters involved in something. Rather than going, you know, nothing to do or standing on the streets or whatever, you know, they had a focus. And I was telling Marianne, if we're working on the car, you have to come out to do a bit on the car. And you try and get them involved. And in that age in life, I think it's a crucial thing to do to them, to get them into it, you know.
Yes. As getting involved in the work side as well as the
exactly,
driving.
No, it's not just about sitting in a car and driving, you know, you got to learn mechanical aspects, you know, small things which obviously help you in normal life as well, you know.
Of course, I could then you'd be able to change a wheel, or like looking below the bonnet, and if you have to top up the oil, simple things like that.
Exactly, stupid things you could see. I remember seeing some people, you know, changing a wheel and putting the nuts on the wrong way, you know, and they just learn that. So, you know, from 14, 15, or 16 when they go on and do that. So when you're 17, you're starting to drive, you're way ahead of somebody who hasn't had no experience. You know, and car control and everything. And I could see Meirion, and I think we did a couple of tests, and he hit the car once at a test. But you learn from those, you know. Okay, I give him a ball again. But, you know, as you any father would, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
But you learn from those mistakes, and you go on and you better yourself, you know. So I think the junior is a very, very good start.
And you look back as well, and you just remember how brave you were at that age. I mean, seeing absolutely no fear. I mean, we weren't going that fast, but still. You weren't afraid of bouncing off anything, I think, at that age. No, it's good, like the progress you can make. And like you said, even for guys who don't even carry on rallying, they learn so much by the time they actually maybe even just go driving the road. You know, because, you know, generally people have no idea what to do if a car breaks into a slide, you know, when they're 17, having never driven before. So it serves a lot of purposes. But for me, it was great. Obviously, it put me a lot further ahead when I turned 17. I could get into... I was in a pretty good car when I was 17, really, in an ST Fiesta back then, which was, you know, everything. It was
do you know, if you hadn't had the Junior 1000 education or driving up through it, I wouldn't have put him into that at that time, you know. But obviously, you wouldn't have been ready, but you're ready to go, and it's a good start in life then to go.
We actually went and there was a rally at a local showground the week after my last Junior 1000 rally, and I'd entered it in the Mica. I think they seated me like 5 cars from the back. But we bought the ST Fiesta kind of the week of the rally and went and did it. And I think I was car 65 out of 80 or something like that. And we finished 5th overall, and we caught about 12 cars on the first stage. I think it was quite funny.
That's when I thought, this is going to cost me money.
You're like, oh no.
You know, was it a good thing or not? But
the front of the Junior 1000 is really, really competitive, actually, when you look at it back over the years, you know. You go and you have to fight for just minimal margins in those cars because they're so slow. You have to just find it yourself, you know.
It's all about carrying speed and getting your lines right, you know, and braking right, because, you know, if you're in 1,000 and you lose about 5 kph coming out of a bend by the top of the straight, you're way behind. You know, if you can carry the speed through the bends and a nice line, it makes difference, and you can just, you know, bring that all on as you get older. All
that experience is easy carried right through then.
Massively. No, it is good, and I'm glad to see taking off. It's pretty popular everywhere. I think now.
The Irish one of the forestry actually is very good. It's good
that's a fantastic initiative.
That teaches them even more again, you know. It's
Yeah.
notes and everything, you know, rather than diagrams and everything. So it's a big step.
Because you see the likes of young Moffat there and Jack Brennan, all these guys coming through, and I think they're the future's very bright when you see the likes of them guys.
Young Moffat is a chip off the old block, I think.
Yes.
I talked to him at the finish ramp on some rally this year, and I said, "Oh, you rallying?" He said, "I've just started. I went testing last week and I rolled." And I said, "Oh, you know."
He'll learn from that. Like we all do.
Yes. And Mel, you talked about the ST56, the car, like the S12B for those 10 years was the ultimate tarmac car at the very least. Like, and
No doubt about
I
it.
don't ever remember a car lasting so long, being competitive. You know, you think of the P2000 or the Group A car, they had a 2-3 years shelf life, but the 12B had 10 years almost, didn't it?
I think the 12B, when it came out, it had everything, good power, good handling. And I think there was only, between the other cars, because I had them all, believe it or not, like I said, an S7, S8, S9, and it was minimal changes, And the 12 came out. The 12 wasn't such a good car. It was okay. But then they thought, right, we got that totally wrong. And when the 12B came out, people thought the 12E was similar to the 12, but it was actually completely different, Chassis pickup points and the balance of the car was completely moved. Different engine, intercoolers, brakes, and all that kind of stuff had moved on a hell of a lot, really. And it made it a phenomenal car. And the raw grunt in that, like 0 to 60 kph launch would have been 3.4, 3.5 seconds, And even if you sat in it today, I remember a good mate of mine, Richard Brown, again, he's a Kerry boy from Killarney, wait a minute.
Killarney's
and you probably know him, and he's a good mate of mine, and we did a lot of work, like I said, on the Subaru. And when he went away and did the mini WRC thing and all that stuff with ProDrive, and then he came down here one day and we did a bit of work on my Subaru, went down the road. I did a launch again, and he said, geez, I forgot how good these were. There was just something about them, really.
But the thing for engineers as well, the generation after, like the 12B and the 14, the 1600 cars, they become very mechanical. So for engineers, really, it was like an R5 car. There wasn't so much you could do compared to the old 2-litre cars.
Yeah.
And I think I remember the engineers always used to like coming back to work on a Subaru because it was so much more that they could do,
Yeah.
It was their input was making they weren't as restricted, I suppose, really. Could do.
They could map diffs and everything, whereas with the newer cars, it's purely mechanical.
I remember when we ran Manus, I think the second year he won Donegal, and it was quite close between him and Donna Kelly.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to Richard Thompson, ProDrive engineer again, when he ran the WRC team, and the night before, and he said, right, Melvin, you need to do this, you need to do that. So we had good people from behind helping us, and stupid, just small things, any hole in the intercoolers or around the side of the rat packs, silver foil, get all as much air into that intercooler you can, everything out, and no weight, like even bottle of water, if they need to have a bottle of water, it's just half a bottle of water in the car, It's just stupid things, but obviously all those small little things that you learn of these engineers and you put to use makes a difference, obviously, It
was quite interesting, even in 2018, was it like 9 years since Subaru stopped making rally cars, that the ProDrive engineers still wanted to win those rallies, It was quite nice.
Oh, yeah. They were, like I said, Richard Thompson would just ring me at 10 o'clock in the night when I was in Letterkenny, like, Melvin, how are things going, what's happening, The cars got a little bit, as they got older, it was time, I think, when we finished them to put them to bed, really, because there's so much electronics, so many things, hydraulic valves and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of maintenance on them. Before the last Donegal, the third win we did with Manus, the amount of work we did to that car was, was price of a good front-wheel drive car, probably, just to get the thing 100% to the best you could. And you're still on a wing and a prayer on it when you're doing something like Donegal, because it's like 2.5 days or whatever it is. Just to keep everything sharp, and we had to do a clutch change, and we got to do this where
change the fuel cell, put a new one in.
Change the fuel cell.
That was faulty, so
that wasn't working right. We had to decide which one was the best to keep going, and it was flat out in service, just trying to keep it. I'll never forget Manus looking out the window of the truck. I think we decided to do a clutch change, I think on halfway through the second day, was it? On the Saturday. And I didn't tell Manus nothing, just leave him, and he went in the truck, and he must have looked out the window and seen the gearbox out and everything, and he runs out the truck and taps me on my shoulder and goes, Melvin, are we all right? I said, yeah, we're just doing a clutch. No problems? I said, no, everything's fine. And he would just walk off cool as anything, But there were, to keep the cars going, there was a lot of work involved in them.
Yeah.
Purely because, that when they were on as work teams, they were running for one event. We were trying to run them for a full season, before rebuild. So the engines, you'd stretch 1,000 Ks, maybe 1,200 kilometers, and they'd have to be done. But all that side is good. Is pretty good. The gearboxes were quite high maintenance on them,
Okay.
purely because of all that talk.
It must have been serious going through all the components and the
I think about 600 odd foot-pounds of torque or something. It'll climb up the side of a house, really. Like I still drive some of these R5 cars. Don't get me wrong, they're fast, but they're nothing like the raw grunt of that 12B. You could be not in one wrong gear, you could be in two wrong gears. And it's still pull through it, that's so much grunt to them. It will never penalise you for that, And that's where I think you'd get the speed and the traction of them. Some car,
for sure. And like even the noise, even to this day, it's so unmistakable. It's completely different, even from like an S8 or a 9 or whatever. There's
somebody put a video on his Facebook for his birthday the other day, and still he played it like over the table, and I heard it straight away, and like my eyes lit up. It's like it's proper noise,
Well, whenever you fire from coal, you hear they go bam, 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 bam. They chuck it away like anything, totally different to any other car today. It's an iconic car. And to see it where it is now is good, really.
Yes, we should mention that there. Like, you were over recently and seen the car. Donna Kelly had bought the guy that that had the Titanic battle with Manison back in 2018. But now he's bought the car, put it in his museum in the Donegal room. It's just it's a lovely sight, isn't it?
Maybe we should have bought it about 6 or 7 years sooner.
But that car, actually, believe it or not, Donna Kelly tried to buy it off me.
That was before he bought the Focus.
And I think we were at a rally. He broke down. He had an S11, and I was there, and he came to me and said, "Would you sell the 12B?" Well, you probably remember that.
I was there, yeah. It was with you, Hunter. We were running him in an S11, and we were going to the truck, and you basically said yes to him.
I basically, because obviously I'd sell anything for the price. That's what I've always been. And we had a deal more or less done, and sat in the truck, and I said, "Okay, look, I just want to go home and clear my head, and we'll speak Monday." And I think it's one of the only cars. I came home, and I spoke to Anne, the wife, and I said, "Look, I've got Donna Kelly wants to buy the Subaru," and he said, "You're not selling it." And if it wasn't for her, I think I would have sold it. But Anne said, "No, you've got to keep it," and I kept it. And that's when Donna went and bought the Focus. But I was talking to him going back a few months ago, and he said, "Well, at least I've got it now anyway."
It took a few years.
Finally got it.
And like how different the Donegal rally history would have been if Donna had bought that car. Like, you would never have won these 3 in a row. Yep. So
you never know. I think the way the Donegal rally was and the nature of the stages, the 12B was very, very suited for that kind of stuff. It liked real fast stages. I remember we went to the Manx one year when I won the Manx, and against Paul Bird in the Focus, And I think we were fastest on every one of the stages throughout all of the Saturday. And going into the last stage, and I remember Paul Bird telling me, and Melvin, you're going to leave me have this last stage. And I said to jokingly, yeah, you can have the last stage. And I went back in the car and I thought, no, he's not having the last stage. and you could still go out, and we had all the fastest times, but it was a type of car, if you drove it right, it would reward you in it. There's such, especially on real bone dry.
The dry stuff, The Focus was a very good car if it was damp or wet,
Good chassis in that, but
the Subaru was like I know some projects, but it's more like a touring car kind of thing, The Focus was like an estate almost, but it was huge, but
But we did a lot of work, on the car as well. A lot of damper work, valving, even different intercoolers, because when they design those cars, the intercoolers are designed, that restricts the amount of air to go through to get the cooler air to go into the engine. But when you're running them in our environment, the air, is a lot colder anyway.
Okay, yeah, you're not trying to run higher temperatures.
Yeah, so we try to run them like flow more air through the intercoolers to get better throttle response, more power, and less cooling. So it's a fine line to try a lot of, we spend hours and hours trying different stuff, and all with the help of the engineers and various people. So, and I think the 12B we had in the end was way, way better than what the cars were in the work stage, because of these little things you did, and even down to engine mapping, and stuff like that. There's a lot you could do to them.
Because I suppose even the way technology moved on over that 10 years or whatever.
Yeah. Those tag ECUs, what you could do to them if you obviously need somebody to know what they're doing with them, like the engineers, but you could just change, gear shifts and incredible what you could do to those cars, and that's what made them expensive, the clutch in those days, like you say, the clutch, carbon clutch was something like just over 4,000, and that would you'd be lucky to get probably 6 events maybe or a bit more out of it, where you're doing an R5 today and it's like €1,000 and you'll get a season out of it. Things have changed a lot because of the way they run them, but anyway, we wouldn't change it, wouldn't we?
No. And I remember the time that you started to sell off the 12Bs. Everybody thought you were mad, but it turned out it was probably the right time to sell them.
Definitely was.
Yeah.
We definitely was. We decided before Donegal already. But
I'd made the decision then, and I told, because Manas were going, I said, right, we're going for this one, and we put a lot into it, into the last one, because to try and get it 3 in a row, because it meant as much to us as what it did to Manas, really, But it was time to let them go. Yeah, it was too expensive. And I think the R5s are coming through, and I think different era, different rallying, different people. And I think the R5 just made it more a sort of a neutral ground for anybody, especially when you had the world cars, you needed a good team behind you to run the car properly. And the cars were expensive, so you needed a good budget. Yeah. And it was harder, if somebody had all those ingredients, you'd have a good competitive car and a package. But with the R5, that took a lot of that away and made it probably more even for all the competitors to go and race against each other. Sure. So, which you can see now, the top 4 or 5 in the international now, they'll do a 20-kilometer stage, they'll be separated by 2 seconds,
Yeah. Isn't it fantastic?
It's amazing, isn't it, when you get that, the days I was rallying was completely different,
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys, when they moved away from the World Cars, I think a lot of the casual fans always thought it was a bad idea, because I don't think they understood the concept of R5. But I think as it's turned out, it's probably been the best thing that's happened to the sport for me for a long time,
Absolutely, and I'm probably as guilty as anybody of that. I thought whenever these world cars go away, that's going to be the death of Irish rallying, but it's completely opposite of it. You
only got to look at how many R5 cars are doing rallying in Ireland at the moment. And they vary from price. You can buy an R5 car today for just over 100,000 if you want, and start off there, and it still go very well.
And probably cheaper than like a top line Mark II Escort,
a historic Mark II new one to build today, people are charging 130,000 for them. So it just shows you put things in perspective, really, doesn't it?
That's for sure. That is for sure. And I suppose what next would be like these R5 cars. They've changed the whole face of rallying, and because they are also competitive. Reliability is a major thing, and that's the one thing that have to be said about any car that's come out of your stable. That's been always very reliable. Do you put that down to preparation in the workshop before it arrives in the event?
I've always said, if all the work is done in the workshop before going to the event, you don't want to be doing it on the rally, because that's going to cost you time and mistakes happen. Gearboxes, pull them apart, check them often. We do it probably too often, but it's like last year when we were running Matt Edwards and Osham Price in the PRC, 2 identical cars. You thought if any one of them broke down, you'd think one would be saying, has he prepped it right, or has he done this? But for us, it's not massive money. It's just a bit of labor intensive, but pull everything back, maintain it right, and through the whole year, if you do that, like wheel bearings on our cars would last the whole year, but we pull them apart every wet event or every 2 to 3 dry events and just clean them, put them back together. Well, if people don't look at them, you could have a bearing failure, and then you'll need new bearings, and you might need a hub and stuff. It's all about prevention, So the only way to do them right is to, spend the hours and do it in the workshop. And I think because I'm mechanically minded and be brought up, I'm a bit too critical, and I've lucky a good bunch of boys around me, and they know what I'm like. Car comes back, it's a day washing that car off, and every part comes off, every arm, every suspension arm, everything, just to inspect them the best you can. Obviously, we all, it still can't break. It is, but touch wood, I think since we've had R5, PRC last year, we didn't have nothing really.
One bad luck, really. That unavoidable almost. But
you know, it's that's the only thing. It's like anything, you just got to put your work in it, put your homework into it. You know, it's like any trade, really, isn't it? You know, you
That's
only
for
get
sure.
out what you put in.
And like, you know, for you guys, like this small family-run business in Wales, taking on M-Sport and, you know, taking the British Championship last year, and probably will go down in history books as one of the, you know, the two guys from the one team, and it was ding dong for the whole year, wasn't it?
yeah, and I think it kind of changed not only winning the championship, it changed the dynamic of how people thought about it in the UK and Ireland as well. I mean, you've seen since quite a big shift of people wanting to buy Volkswagens or something that's not a Fiesta, you know, and I think it's good because the Fiestas, you go back to 2019 in Ireland, there were what, like 12, 15 Fiestas, maybe one or two Hyundais and one Skoda or something, and it's nice to have variation, I think, on an entry list.
Yeah. So the whole Volkswagen thing happened to me really again purely because a lot of the engineers that were in ProDrive had gone to Volkswagen. So, you know, to be fair, when we went into Volkswagen at the beginning, we had all the backing and the support and all help we needed, you know, and even they've been testing for stuff like GB and, you know, as works team. So it was a big help for us to, you know, when you go in with those kind of people. I still think the Volkswagen is a very good car. Now, I still say between a Fiesta and a Volkswagen or a Citroen or whatever, you know, there's not massive differences. It's just the package and the way what suits you and getting the best out of it. But I do think the R5 is good like that for everybody. You know, they're still fairly close. And I think, okay, we dominated maybe a lot like the Ulster Rally when the BRC was last year. And it showed like Martinello's. But I think that was down a lot to their pace driving. They've been racing themselves all through the year. They were on top of the game and they went to the Ulster Rally. Whoever beat each other was winning, you know, and they were just going flat out at it. And it was a nail-biting thing for us, just to hopefully nothing will go wrong with the cars, you know, for them to have a fair fight.
Yes.
And I think it's nice to see when you get a race like that, everybody was just on their feet, just looking at it, you know, and it was phenomenal, really, that year. Great, yeah. That's what it should be, really.
Aye, and for you personally, you know, sending them two guys out, knowing that you had done everything you could, it must be, like, it has to be nerve-wracking, but exciting at the same time.
I think I walked the car park about 100 times that weekend up and down, you know. Everybody was saying, when's the car's going to where's Melvin? And you could see I was just walking back down all the time, just worried and thinking. And
I was just worried because it would have been horrible for one of them to lose it on a mechanical or something, you know. It would have been, and then we'd have probably felt guilty, you know.
Yeah. But no, it was, as it turned out to be, unfortunate for Sean. You know, what happened to him, he lost it, but
I don't think he's too worried about that now.
No, like, and look at the way he bounced back, you know, he come back stronger. That shows the mark of the guy that he's come back stronger than ever, you know. So
to be fair, he's come back this year very, very stronger, and his pace this year for me has been very good. You know, when you're up against Keith Cronin, which for me is probably one of the best drivers out there, there's no doubt in his ability. And to race Keith, you know, it was good for Oshan because he knew he wasn't going to have it easy. And to be fair, he mastered it. He did well to do it.
I think he says himself it's the best he's ever driven. And you can tell, I think, just the way he is, he's like a different bloke to what I've seen him. You know, we only run him last year, but even before that, I've known Oshan as a competitor. And he's never seemed as relaxed as what he's been this year, you know. And I think he's quite happy with everything around him. And
I could, even with the Jim Clark rally this year, like it didn't seem to get him down. It just focused on the next rally. Just you know, that's our drop.
I rang him about 3 weeks after the rally, and he said to me, "Oh, I've lost the will to do this a bit after that, you know." But I think you know, it's like anything. It took him maybe 2-3 weeks, and then he could think, right, put that behind me. I'll look at the next one, and he did the job there. To be fair,
you've just got to pull a line and make it to move on, haven't you? You can't dwell on the past. It's
in the past,
It's only hold you there, just move on, and that's what he did. To be fair, and you know, he came back then and he won. Which one did he win then? He
won Nicky Grist, obviously.
Nicky Grist, and that was a good one for him, obviously. And after that, then was
I think he was Grampian. He was second to Keith, and then obviously then in the rally by Keith obviously made the mistake, which kind of opened the door for him nicely. But
it's a shame that happened to Keith, but you know, obviously it's unfortunate for Keith really, because he's normally fairly good.
He doesn't normally make too many errors, does he?
No.
But we were aware, kind of. I think we spoke that after that rally that Keith Cronin doesn't give out gifts that often, so I think you had to pounce on it. You know?
That's for sure. That is for sure.
It happens, but not taking it away from Aarron, the tractor rally, which he won the championship, he drove phenomenally well.
Yeah.
Real calculated drive. His time on the Friday night stage, was, I think similar to the stage that they ran the year before, and he was up on time this year in the wet compared to what all the boys had done the previous year.
Yeah.
So I think he had a statement there, right, I'm here to win it.
That's
what is in his mind.
And
that was in his mind when you're talking to him. We got to win this. He didn't want to leave it to Cameron.
No, the problem is if he could go there with like win to win the championship, but if he doesn't win, then it's a big switch of mentality for the Cameron then, because it's a shootout again, and you don't know which way you can go.
It could be something simple then again.
Anything can happen, but the Cameron was probably going to be one of his strongest events anyway, because he went, he won that last year, and he was very quick.
It was just a strange one with it. Obviously, the two tarmac stages opened up a big question mark over it all, like, because nobody knew, nobody ever really practices to drive a gravel car on tarmac, so. It would have been tricky, but I think he could have won, yes, but he didn't need to.
For us, it worked out well because we had young Solberg in the car as well, so it was a bit exciting to get him in there.
From your point of view, Melvin, I'll talk Marianne, I'll bring you in now in a wee minute, but Melvin, from your own point of view, having this Petter Solberg, world champion, star of the World Championship for many a year, to be standing in your service area, that has to be very special.
It was, and he turned up to our workshop and where I live, and he's just type of bloke. He's a people's person, innit? To be fair to him, he just gets on with everybody. We went through everything. Real nice bloke to work with. The son then is a bit of a bite, he could crack with him, and I think you don't realise it, but you got to pinch yourself after the rally. To know that he'd been with you and we'd succeeded in what we went out to do. Very, very good character, and you see the people, the following he's got is amazing. Like the messages we had through Facebook and all that stuff. It's just another level again. Those boys, isn't it?
And Marianne, from your point of view, having Oliver Solberg fresh from the World Rally Championship and one of your cars too, very cool.
Yeah, it was very, very nice actually, just to work with them, and it was nice to appreciate kind of how they work. They're very much an elite mentality. I guess all Oliver's ever kind of known is WRC, ERC, and the best of everything in a way. Working with a factory team. So, and I think Petter has a lot of ideas himself as well. So it was good for us. I think we learned a bit ourselves off them, and I think it was just all around a really good experience for me.
Yeah,
obviously there's pressure.
Probably a good thing for Oliver too. Like, he's had a tough year to come back, and
I think that was
a family thing as well too. From your point,
that was the point of it. I think it was more for him just to go and enjoy. I mean, there was obviously there was some pressure on him, because if he didn't win the rally, people would think there's something wrong. But I sat in with him on the shakedown stage, and I was pretty confident after that he'd win the rally if he drove like that. But no, still, there's still pressure. I mean, he couldn't really afford to lose it, but still, he just had to go and enjoy, and I think he did that. And I think it's kind of similar, because obviously Oliver and Petter are father and son. Just me and Dad are the same. We just try and do a good job for them. Just they're a bit more famous than we are, but but no, it was really, really good. I expected it to be maybe more stressful than what it was, but I think it was just the whole thing of, well, we're working with Petter Solberg. If you're running a motorsport team and you get to work with a name like this, these are the kind of weeks you live for, really. So, we had to enjoy it.
It was good also for him to appreciate the polo, because he's doing all different R5s and this and that. And he said, and I was asking what you still think of the polo, and his opinion was still the best R5 car, And I think he proved that. He was just playing, I think, on that rally, and entertaining the crowds and stuff. And he was still setting some phenomenal times.
Actually, it was quite funny. I spoke to Craig, the navigator, just on the finish ramp, and I said to you, steady away on the last stage, because I think they were like second fastest, I think 3 seconds off fastest time. And he said, no, Oliver's really gutted, actually, because they stopped for 35 seconds, they reckon. The screen missed it up. They forgot to put it on the start line. And he said Oliver was actually really, really pissed off about that, because it was the only stage he said, right, I'm going to have a proper go in here, because he enjoyed it in the morning. And that happened. But yeah, and I just thought they backed off and took it really easy.
But Oliver was telling me, he said, Melvyn, it was my fault. I forgot to put the heated screen on, and the water came and everything missed it up, he said. But after that, I drove like hell. So, but you could see, to be fair for him, I think you reckon that they look at the in-car camera and he was on stop for 35 seconds, and then only to be 3 seconds or whatever off the fastest time just shows, you know, the mentality and the capability that they.
I think at the end of the day, he's a professional driver, and I think from sitting with him, the confidence a professional driver has is on another level to you know, anybody who pays for their own rallying kind of thing. Well, I'm not saying he doesn't pay, but you know, guys like me, or you know, us sort of boys, you know, we're a bit more. We're not so sure that it'll go around some corners, whereas he was just fully confident going into the corner that he was out the other side, you know?
Yes. And that's all seat time again, isn't it? It's been having the time in the car. And
he's grown up with it, you know? I was speaking to someone today, he was saying, he'd watched Oliver Solberg drive a 208 R2 when he was 14, when we were just talking, half an hour ago, that I was driving a 1000cc Micra. And I felt fortunate, you know, doing that.
Yes.
But, you know, he's had a lot of good experience, and I think especially then he worked with a factory team at the top level, racing against the best drivers in the world. Yeah. Regardless of your result, it's going to bring you on a hell of a lot, you know.
Of course, yeah. You're looking at their telemetry. You're listening to them saying, you know, if you throw into this corner, this will work, and you upgrade your confidence, obviously, as well.
And it's just, you know, the testing, working with the best engineers, working, you know, where every tiny detail is worth so much to them, and it was like they brought that with them to us, really. I think that's the way Pet has worked throughout his life anyway, because obviously you don't become a world champion by taking half measures. So
you think maybe minimal little changes you do, or any aspect you do to the car, which is very minimal in places, but if you add them all up together, it you know, accumulates to a big difference maybe then, you know. So I can see his point, you know. It's just small things we were doing, you know, all the time.
He doesn't stop, to be fair. I mean, even midday service, Oliver had a pretty good lead, and you know, the normal driver would say, right, we'll drive around slowly, but we still changed some things on the car just to see, and it was quite impressive on a test. Every run we'd change something just for the sake of it. He said he did first 2 runs, he was happy with the car. And you know, instead of just driving for the sake of driving, he'd always just make a tweak just to see what it would do to the guy, you know. And it would
either improve or not, and then at least you can go back or go forward.
Exactly. He took notes of every run he did, and you know, and just kept that, you know, to see what he needed to do.
And Petter even said, to be fair, we've done a lot of testing. We did a lot of testing with our own polo, and a lot of the time we went the wrong way, but we have to know that it's the wrong way.
Which is point is right, really, you know.
Because if you don't try these things, you don't know until you're in a certain situation if something will work or won't work.
Sometimes he said he's gone badly the wrong way, but he's tried it and he knows not to go that way again. You know?
Yeah.
And you know, for Oliver to go and do that rally, you know, we were doing so much to the car and doing so many things, and I thought he's on a different level of a driver. He should win anyway. But they weren't looking at that at all. You know, they just wanted the best. You know, even though I think he was good enough, he could have gone in any setup and he'd have won that rally. But still had to have everything, you know, at 100%, really, to be fair to them.
And I think that's the only way to be, really. If you want to be the best you can be, you know, that's for any driver, not just somebody in the World Championships. You know?
Like what I was surprised as well. Like mid service, before we went to the last loop, we put new tires on the car, and you know, normally you're going to pick the best tire to put as a spare, then to put back as a spare. And he said, no, the one with the less tread on. And I'm thinking, can you at least put the one with the less tread? Yes, less weight, Melvin. You know, you think, Jesus, you know, maybe a couple of mil of tread down a tire. But that's the way the mentality they are.
It's a bit obsessive, but I think I agree with it. You know,
that kind of goes back to that pro drive thing. If you know, if Manus was going to be drinking a bottle of water, half a bottle of water, you know, it's all them wee fractions just all add up, doesn't it?
Well, a little bit. It's quite cool. You have to remember that when we were running Subarus at the height of it, Petter was a factory driver with them, really. So he was developing the cars that we got a lot of success with.
But you know what was nice about him? Like, I obviously with Killarney coming up, I got one of the other workshop there is pretty full of historic cars. And you know, Petter is a big lover of historic cars, so he was in there going through them with me, you know, and you know, completely different thing to what the polo was, and he was so excited about the historic cars and asking about this, you know, and I told him, you know, it'd be good to get him over to do an event in an Escort. And it's just good crack with the whole team. You know, I think they're a family and we're a family, and we just got on good together, you know, and even invited us out for Christmas time, you know, to his place.
The big thing I found, people ask me about the Solbergs, was the biggest thing I found is just their passion for it and how much they love rallying. I mean, he won the World Championship 19 years ago, and he's just in no way near bored of it yet. Still, he still wants. He's still thinking of
how to improve the tires, the few
everything.
The few,
just the passion for
grams saving the whatever.
We had a lot of good stories of him, because he told me when he started rallying, he went to the bank and wanted to borrow €100,000 to go and start his rallying career. And he said, because I'm going to be world champion, and he got the money. And I think nobody would do that today, will they?
Get the money.
€100,000 was a lot of money, I know what my bank manager would say anyway.
The second one would be off anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, quite a character, to be fair. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. And then a bit closer to home, Marianne, you finally get the monkey off your back in the Ulster. You got the 1 second in the championship. It's been one of those years that you started off great. You took a wee bit of a step back, but the way you regrouped yourself, I think, really marked you out this year. That other years you would have got a bit down about that, but you gathered yourself together, yourself and JJ, and pushed on. Donegal onwards, the times all started to come back again.
Yeah, it did. We had a really good start to the year, actually. Probably, I was saying someone the other day, the start the year we had, it wasn't, obviously we went there to do as well as we could, but it was probably a bit of a shock to a lot of people that we went so well on the first 2 rallies. And it was a bit disappointing then, because obviously you set the bar so high, then you drop off the boil a bit. It's not as fun, but yeah, it was we had to kind of say middle of the year, right? We need to think about where we are here and kind of rebuild. And Donegal was a good opportunity for that. It's 3 days. I knew before the year started Donegal would be tough, because I'd only done once before to go and race properly there, So we just decided, went there, did our own thing, and drove. We obviously still had to drive pretty hard, but drove comfortably, not taking the risks that the guys in front of us were, and I think it paid off for the result. And even don't get me wrong, on pace maybe we didn't deserve third, on pace, but then on a rally like that, we know that people make mistakes in Donegal. So the way we looked at it, we carried out a plan, we got it, and we got the result at the end, and that for the confidence was really good, actually.
Yeah, like Donegal, I always say you can never win Donegal on Friday, but you can surely lose it, and
and you can definitely lose it on Sunday as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this year proved that. Yeah, so
yeah, I said to Rory Kennedy on, I think, Park Fermi on Saturday night, said, not a lot's happened yet, Rory. I'm starting to doubt my plan here, and he said, don't you worry, boy, it's coming. But no, it was a bit wild what happened on Sunday, but it all kind of comes to a head at some point. Those guys, they go at each other so hard, and it was going to happen to someone, and unfortunately for 3 of them, it happened to them.
Yeah, but it was unbelievable just the way it.
But you've still got to be. At the end of the day, we've got to look at it that we were in the frame to pick up the pieces.
Exactly.
We weren't that far behind, really. No. So.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we improved the car a fair bit, actually, after Donegal. We looked at some things we could do, and we're trying to do some more again over winter to make sure we're not getting left behind again, But
no, it's going to be half bottles of water from now on.
There won't be any. Galway's all right, it's wet enough anyway, so we can leave it.
And Mel, from your point of view, to see him finally get that 1 in the Ulster, that must have been fantastic, to see your son spreading the champagne. Great feeling.
It was, and again, Ulster Rally, which I walked up and down the car park again about 100 times, I think. So I think I've got my own footpath there.
I think we're waiting for the bill for Modern Tyres with a new concrete.
Yeah, and it was nice because I knew he could do it. It's just a matter of holding it all together. And I think. Desi Henry was leading, but I think when it went wet in the morning, I think it'll be interesting to see what the times will be at the end of the first days, because we are clocks halfway in and Meirion as well up, So and I did the gravel notes for him and drove around. It's a tricky rally, that Ulster rally, especially with the weather and changes. And even though he had a good lead, then it's just keeping it, keeping ahead and getting it through. So it was obviously nerve-wracking for him and pretty nerve-wracking for me, but. Like I said, he's got the monkey off the back now, and you can build on that. Then it's like I think once you've had 1 win, the second one is always easier, and the third hopefully is always easier. It just happens. Then
you look back and you think probably Galway I think we shook Josh probably on the Sunday to get within 5 seconds of him after the lead he had. And I think if I would have had a bit more experience and knowledge of how to win a rally, we could have probably gone about it a bit better, you know?
Yeah.
And like you look at West Cork again, we put a big time in the second stage on Sunday, and kind of we started the day 23 off the lead, and after the second stage on Sunday, we were 8 seconds off the lead. With more experience again, I think you can probably put yourself
into that frame of mind again for the next stage.
Exactly. So
you just got to carry that through all the time. It's not about just one stage; it's doing all of them. You know, consistency in it. But not taking nothing away from Josh Moffat this year. I think he's driven, phenomenally well.
Year, really.
It's been his year, and he deserved to win the championship. And I was glad he did win the championship. Even though if he'd have broken down on Ulster and Meirion would have finished, Meirion would have won, which is a bit strange. I don't know how the points work, but I still think Josh, was the worthy winner this year.
He was.
He's taken some huge risks, and you can see his, just seeing in-car, or cameras and videos of what he's been doing. He's been on the racket ends a few times, and he's been lucky. He's got away with it, and you don't get away with that all the time,
Yeah,
no,
and that's the joy of rallying. You do need a bit of the rub of the green down again as well, too, don't you?
You do, yeah. You need a bit of the rub of the green. And like I said, I think Meirion went off after the circuit this year. He went off and hit the car a bit. I think because he's mechanically minded and works in the cars ourselves with us here, he sees what's involved in doing them, the cost of repairing them, even though he didn't do much of damage. But that just knocks you a bit, I think, because his car, his baby, he won't leave me higher that to anybody else, It's just the way it is.
There's nothing worse than coming back, opening the trailer and seeing, a damaged car in the trailer, on the Monday.
So that knocks your confidence, but you got to pick yourself up and just keep fighting away. And then as things got through and onto the Ulster Rally, the pace was back again, and he had the win, which is
to be honest, even we did rally by, and that didn't go very well again. But even our pace on rally by was fine. I wasn't really. I knew that the speed was back, and I know I can probably go a bit better again. But we were matching Ocean and Hayden Paddon on rally by, so we got it back nicely towards the end of the year. But I just think we can hopefully just not have that dip next year would be nice.
Yes, just to keep it consistently good. Excellent. And then we almost forgot Alistair Fisher was in part of the team this year as well. Again, one of those naturally gifted drivers who can step into a car and doesn't do an awful lot of events throughout the year, but has that capability to step in and go fast.
To be fair, I think Alistair Fisher is probably one of the most rapid drivers I've worked with. He's very, very quick when he wants to be, but unfortunately this year a couple of incidences happened, and in my opinion he's thrown the championship away in one way or another. He'd have been definitely up there to win it if it wasn't for what happened in Killarney, and then obviously in Cork or whatever came after that. You had a comfortable win going into the last day in Cork. And it's the same, those little things, when you're up against these other boys, two non-finishes like that and you're out of the frame. But as a driver, I think he's a very capable driver, but he just needs to reset. I don't know what he'll do next year, and look at, a couple of things, I think, in what's happened and what's happened with them through the year. And he's a very, very, top-end contender, no doubt about it.
Ali's one of those, if he gets it together properly, you're going to struggle to live with him. If he had the loop he had when it went wet in Cork 20 and we were all on medium slicks, me, Callum and Josh were much of a muchness over the 3 stages, really. We were second here, but Ali took a chunk, and you just think that's I don't know if it's being brave or just his ability, but he can do it.
Both, probably.
And on day 2 of the circuit as well,
that turnaround was
just the way everyone just fell into place. And
I was surprised because I thought I was miles out of it after the first day of the circuit. I kept saying to Killian at the stage end, I'm driving badly and everything. I looked at the results at the end, and Ali's only like 14 seconds ahead of me. I think he's not had a great day either. But then second day to turn it around and win from there was quite special, actually.
But you could tell he was committed on that circuit. He's knocking door mirrors off on wings or coming. He was really, really pushing hard. And I think he's either to get through with a win here, or he was going for it, and you could tell his mentality.
But that was his experience as well, because he sniffed the win and went and got it.
That's it just shows the caliber of the guy that he can see something and visualize it and go for it. So.
I was just very frustrated when what happened to Cork. Nothing against Alistair, but I was frustrated myself with what happened, because I thought, right, he's coming away with a win, yeah. He had built it up, and then going into the next one, Ulster would have been a good rally for him, I would have thought.
Yeah, but
It's how easy rallying changes, there's no in between. It's either on the top or on the bottom.
That's
no
like you're a hero one day and then,
in 12 hours, he went from having the biggest lead we've seen all year in the Tarmac Championship after the first day to thrown away, and it's just a shame.
It is a shame for him, because he's a nice fella, and thinks a lot, and the whole family are tidy, to be fair.
Sure.
Big names on the in rallying.
Oh, for sure, the rallying royalty here in Ireland. Yeah. And then for yourselves going forward, is there any ambitions for Melvyn Evans Motorsport? Would you like to venture on? You've got a taste of working with Peter. Would you like to do some rounds of WRC?
We've been offered with some drivers to price it, but I think I pulled the line and said no. Once you go into WRC, it's time away, and it's not my main business, rallying. It's probably rallying's turned out to be too much really for what I wanted it to be. And I think if I wanted to go and do WRC, I'd want to do it properly, so you'd have to do a lot of time into it. So no, I think we'll give that a miss and just stick with the Irish Tarmac. Is a fabulous Tarmac championship to win. Might look at taking Marianne to do one or two, maybe in Europe somewhere, just to have a bit of a change. But no, I think we'll just
you look at
stay humble and stay as we are.
A concentrated WRC program is every rally for like the truck is 10, 11 days away. If you go to Europe, and like Dad said, it's the garage. If we were primarily a motorsport team, you have to take all the work you get, but obviously we can't really justify that much time being with. He has to be at home to run the garage and stuff, and we need to look after both sides at the end of the day.
That's the main bread and butter. For me, if somebody turns in at 5 o'clock, wants an MOT at 5 o'clock, we'll do it. That's the way it's always been. If a farmer comes or anybody comes in with a car to do it, we'll go off the rally car to work on a normal road car, because that is your bread and butter. With rallying.
At the end of the day, that allows you to go rallying and doing all
exactly. 2 years ago, when COVID hit, if we were just motorsport, we had 2 or 3 brand new Polos sitting there, and we wouldn't have been earning anything. So luckily, the garage kind of.
Kept the thing
going. So
we're quite lucky. The garage is normal stuff is quite busy, so that keeps it going. And you don't know, we've had a busy couple of seasons, but a lot of those drivers I think won't be doing much maybe for the next few years. And unless you get other drivers to go in, which is hard for them to get budget these days with what's happening. So maybe next year we will only be running Meirion. You don't know. You don't know.
You're
just going to take it over the garage. If we have only got Meirion, fine, doesn't bother me, because we've got plenty of work to go on with anyway.
For sure.
I think we'll struggle to top the drivers we have had over the last 2 or 3 years. We've had pretty much the best drivers in the country in our cars, which has been really nice. And then to have something like Solbergs as an extra was obviously like a cherry on top. But it would be nice to keep some. We've been very lucky to have such good drivers in. But
I think when you got top end drivers in the team, I noticed even with my mechanics, they all work that bit harder, because they want the win as much as anybody. Not as in anybody, but somebody's finishing 20th or 30th in a rally, you don't get the same buzz maybe from the boys when they're challenging for a win or that kind of thing. When we've been in that scenario, it's nice, but it's hard to get top end drivers.
You feel it, in service. Even as a driver, or when I'm working, if I drive into service tent in my car and you're fighting for the lead, the atmosphere in your service tent is different completely.
Everybody's just more focused, more zoomed in.
Everybody wants it more for each other.
You've got to raise the bar a bit yourself. Then
it brings the boys together as well.
Well, lads, I think that's as nice a place to wrap it up as any. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting a feel for Melvyn Evans Motorsport.
Thank you,
Gavin.
Gavin, great opportunity to catch up with Melvyn and Marianne, and I suppose maybe good a marker for the 40th episode as well. Just like the involvement that they've had and Melvyn's had in Irish motorsport over the last 15, 20 years, whatever. It's just been incredible.
Absolutely. And as he mentions there, he started out the business, and then the way it developed, and he's only driving too, won in the national championship, the only driver from outside the island of Ireland to won that, back in 2010, and just we know his car prep and his car hire business second to none, so absolute pleasure. And as you say, what a way to mark the 40th episode of 2022. You know, 40th anniversary. Getting way ahead of myself. But that was episode 40. So thanks once again. And if you could please take the time just to like, share, comment, rate, subscribe. All those things makes a huge difference. So until the next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.